Welcome to the Coaching Business Spotlight Fall Series, the Soul Driven Success Community Stories. This fall, we will be exploring true stories, successes, challenges, all the things in between of the soul driven success community. Because the point is, I want to bring insight into how you can succeed in your coaching business in a way that's authentic, it honors your values, and it lets you shine your light for the sake of others, those that you most want to serve. This is something I learned early on in my coaching career. I knew, and this is what we're taught. I can coach anybody, any topic, any circumstance in life. But there were some that were just more interesting to me because they resonated with my own passion and purpose. And anyone who knows me and knows what I teach at the Business Academy is I believe coaches should have a niche. This is not just because I know it's strategic and easier to market, but it gives them an opportunity to speak, to share their stories, to share their passion, to tell the things that they find have most shaped them in life so that they can help others. So, in this fall series, I'm going to be exploring how stories and these stories can help you broadcast your own message to the people you most want to serve. Now, last week, I attended a songwriting camp that was taught by one of my favorite singer songwriters, Todd Snyder. He offered a lot of tips on songwriting, but one stood out to me. He said, you should write songs to heal yourself and write songs that feel good to you. I just love that. It's like, right? Because those are the ones that are going to appeal to your audience. I think it's the same for coaches who want to share their own stories with the world. And after Todd shared this, one of the participants said, well, there's this quote that goes, you should teach from your scars, not your wounds. I really loved that. I was like, oh, that's really the key, right? I know for me and my business, when I started out, I started working with entrepreneurs because I had gone through a lot of challenges as an entrepreneur, but I was on the other side of it. So I feel like as coaches, we want to share our stories to give people hope, and we want to do our own healing and growing. That's a part of it. To be a really great coach, people ask me that all the time. Like, what is it? I'm like, well, you have to be on your own personal growth path. And even if you're just 5 minutes ahead of that client, that the next client you're going to talk to in your healing, it's going to really, really help them. So today, to help me kick off this series, I have Arjan Makar. Now, Arjan is a life and relationship coach. She is a certified coactive coach and a graduate of the Coactive Training Institute's leadership program. And she's also on the leader team of Soul Driven Success Community. And here's a little story about Arjan that I read on her. You can go to her website and find out more. But she says, I was at a dinner party and asked what my passion was. And as I was thinking about how to answer, a friend shouted from across the table, Arjun's passion is relationships. I wondered if that was really true. It seems like such a broad topic. I have come to realize, though, that my friend nailed it. My life has been organized around experiencing as many types of friendships, communities, and romantic relationships as possible. I hold a deep belief that it is only in relationship that we can truly see ourselves. And romantic relationships are the most powerful accelerator for real growth and healing. Love that. Welcome to the show, Arjun.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
That is just so cool. When I read that, I was like, yeah, that is really, really true. And I want to look at that with you today about how that's true for others. But I first want to start with looking at you. So that story makes it clear to me, and I know you, like why you have decided to focus on coaching people on their relationships. And I'm curious to have you share with the audience, what is a story that you have experienced in your own life, something that's happened for you that you feel is really helpful for other people to know, to inspire or give them hope?
Well, I think that, one of the most powerful things that has happened to me in a relationship was that when I was newly divorced
Mhm.
and in a new relationship, my partner died. suddenly and without any warning at
Mm,
44 years old.
wow.
So I found myself in a situation that, most people in their early or mid to late
Mhm.
40s don't find themselves in.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, there was a choice for me. I could get smaller, be sad,
Mm,
long for love lost. And, as I felt myself kind of leaning in that direction, I thought, well, you know what? How would I best honor the love that I had with this person? And that's when I made the decision to go through certification and be a life coach.
wow.
I felt like if I could just use this pain for something, and the metaphor of like a being in labor came to me,
Oh,
right? Like
that's a charming metaphor.
yeah,
Arjan.
there's some there's
Ouch.
some experiences that are very, that they're painful, but there's not
Yeah,
not even a payoff to the pain, right? But if you think of
right.
labor, there's a payoff to the pain you go through to give birth
Yeah.
to something. And that's kind of how I use that experience.
And what was the, I mean, I don't know if we're going to use a metaphor of like, what was the payoff? What did you learn? And how did you grow? I'm going to say not past it, but through that experience.
I think it just brought a lot of maturity to how I saw relationships.
Mm.
And it also made me very, I don't know what the word is, focused or just like intolerant of not having good communication and not having good knowledge of myself because you never know what's like where a relationship will take you or what's going to happen. So there became like an urgency, I think, to learn as much as I could about myself and also about how to be in good relationship with others.
Oh, so I asked for an inspiring story and I'm feeling touched and it is so inspiring. And I know as you're telling that story, I have a personal resonance. Interesting that age, because that was the age I was when I went through a divorce
Mm.
and had some of my own experience of, ouch, this really, really hurts and sucks, and I don't like it at all. But I hadn't really thought about it the way you've just articulated it, that it gives the experience of, hey, we don't ever know. This is important. This is a real central piece. This is what I'm also, want to dive down a little more with you. Like this is central to our life, right? Relationships. Like
Yeah,
everywhere we go. So what is it you have found that you've been able to bring from your own learning and healing that you help other people with in this area?
I think that heartbreak is really a door to transformation if you choose to walk through it. So I mean, I think we can feel all the feels, we can be in the depths of, what might even feel like despair.
Mm.
And there's always something there to hold on to. I think about, I love metaphors, I guess, but like it's like that handle you can grab that allows you to use the experience for more self-knowledge, more self-awareness. And, a heart broken is also a heart broke open. So I think you can use it to experience more love.
Wow, I don't know. I love this. We're in the metaphor land. Because I don't know what metaphor just like popped up for me with that. It's like, oh, right. When we get cracked open or something hurts and it's painful, there really is that opportunity to find out what this is. I don't know if you just said this, but kind of like when we personally grow, we find out what's inside of us, what really matters to us, what's important.
Yes.
And what have you
Yes.
found, as you've gone forward in your training as a coach and being in business as a relationship coach, that without you found people really can learn and actually find fulfillment in relationships through that healing and
Yes.
growing? What is some of the things that you've discovered for yourself or that other people that you've helped have discovered?
I think that you can't do this work necessarily alone.
Mm,
And at the same time, I think you have to know yourself really well to have a more powerful relationship.
So let's just go there.
Sure.
Let's just start with that one. I mean, you might have other things, but like, and I don't even have an exact question here. So how do we how do we come to know ourselves better? I mean, that's just a kind of a funny, think about, okay, if that's true, I believe it is true that to have good relationships, the better we know ourselves, the more conscious we are of what our own thinking, our own emotions. What would you say that that's
Yeah.
in that?
Well, our values,
Mhm.
our patterns and like weaknesses that maybe keep us from honoring our values. Perhaps even just like what we like to do and what makes us comfortable and what's the right amount of stress in our lives that keeps us motivated. There's so many little things that we don't know about ourselves unless we just create a habit of being more self-reflective.
Mhm. Where do you here? I'm just curious, like, so what have you found for yourself? And again, people that you know and you worked with, what keeps us from that? Like, what do I think about that sounds logical. Let's know what we want. Let's know how what's important to us. Let's know our values. What do you find again for yourself or others? Like, where do we get off track with that?
That's one of those questions that has so many different layers to it. I think that, I mean, one is culturally, we don't kind of highlight how important it is to get to know ourselves or to kind of cast an eye inward at our inner
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big piece. We're not taught how to do that. We're not taught how to have a good relationship with ourselves. And then I also think, family of origin patterns. I think, experiences we've had as we've grown up and, fear. And then maybe even most importantly out of all this is lack of support. What I notice is that when people don't have the support, they often can't make the changes they want to make in their lives or, live on purpose or live according to their values.
I'm 100% in that camp. This is why coaching is such a powerful modality, profession. And there are a lot of others, where we need help, but it's interesting that the one area that's so important is one that can be so lacking in people getting support around. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think there's a lot out there. I know I used to have this idea. I should be able to do this. I should be able to figure these things out by myself. And I also think there's a lot of shame that we have for not being able to figure things out.
So true.
Right?
And I'm giggling because I'm going through that now, just like I have experiences in my life where I'm like, I'm a coach, why don't I, why can't I just figure this out or let this go and yeah, we need support. We're not taught.
And I want to echo that because this audience, for the most part, are coaches. And I
Right.
think I know for myself, oh my God, when I was going through my divorce, especially, but lots of times I have relationship issues thinking, yes, I'm a coach. Even regular, like just, I'm going to say regular people feel like they should figure it out. But they're like, I should know about this. I have an understanding of this. But there are
Yeah.
some things, and I think relationships are really one where we actually need another person listening, helping to us to hear our own voice
Mhm.
and all those things that you said that are most important. But this other piece is around the things that we feel shame around. Like, why can't we feel we've made mistakes? That I don't know, I'm going to say like we shouldn't have, or why did I do that? And what have you found in sharing your stories, because you've been sharing your stories, you've been putting them out there on
Yeah.
social media, and what's been the response from other people from you sharing what you've gone through?
Yeah. I think it makes me more approachable. And I also think that, kind of like what's more, what's the word, implicit, not explicit, is that, coaches don't have all the answers, but they know the right questions to ask. Yeah. And like living inside a question is a really beautiful place to be in a lot of ways. I mean, of course, I want to reach goals and to, have milestones. But I also think that, life becomes very poetic and fulfilling in the search for answers. And I feel like that's what's kind of getting stirred up in people. People are seeing that and like starting to understand that for themselves. Finding just these little those new word I learned, glimmers, right? Opposite of triggers,
Ew.
these glimmers of fulfillment.
Yeah. That is so fascinating to me. I love how you put that. It's like in the questions, and that's what coaches really, really know is how to connect with people and ask those questions to get at what's true. But there's this other piece. This is something that happened to me when relationship coaching was my specialty. I remember one very clear moment coaching a client who was heartbroken. You talk about that. And she was in that place of like, why does this happen to me? And what did I do wrong? I was, as her coach, doing what you're talking about, asking the questions and having her see. But she said something to me. She said, I get that you really get this. I can
Mm,
feel that you really understand what I'm going through. And I hadn't been through her exact situation. She was in a heartbreak. I had been in my own heartbreak, but that's part of it. I feel like part of what we bring is our own. I know you use it's this inner knowing. We bring our own inner
mm.
knowing in order to connect with our clients and ask them the questions for them to find their inner knowing.
Yes, and maybe even those inner knowings are having their own little conversations while we're kind of up above them, doing the coaching session.
Oh,
There's maybe some energetic exchange even. Yeah.
that's what I think. Cause I was like, this woman, I'm like, she didn't know. It wasn't like she knew my story, but yeah, she could just kind of feel that I'd been down a path. And I
Yeah.
remember a friend of mine, my friend Corinne, I was going through a heartbreak, a really hard, hard time. And I remember her saying, someday this is going to help people. Someday
Yes.
I get it's really hard for you right now, Kat, but guess what? There are going to be people you can help that because you allowed yourself. This is where I want to go with you next, Arjun, because I think there is something in that what I just said in allowing ourselves to go through the heartbreak without beating up on ourselves. Because that's where I was when this friend of mine was like, I did need somebody. She's like, yeah, what if doesn't? What if it wasn't a mistake? What if it wasn't like this was a terrible thing? What if actually you're going through a life experience to grow and be able to help people? So I'm curious about that for you. And maybe, as a coach, how do you help people? I don't even know, like not go to the wallowing place, but be able to experience, their truth and grow from it.
Right. That's a really great question because there's a couple of facets to it. One is I think that the wallowing is important for a minute,
Okay.
right? Like we have to touch our pain or
Uh,
else we're just spiritually bypassing, right?
it's true. That's true.
So,
Yeah.
and it makes me think of the story you just told about your client saying, I can feel that you can feel me. And it's
Mhm.
like, can we be present with our clients in that pain so that they feel supported in taking like a deep dive and really, really experiencing it?
I wonder as
Um,
you're saying that, like maybe there's even a different word from wallowing that we
right.
could use, right?
Yeah,
Because
right. We
that,
could reframe that. We could reframe it. I mean, it
yeah,
does become wallowing though, for sure, after a period of time.
just
But
just for a
yeah,
minute. Yeah.
yeah. Like diving down deep and really allowing yourself to feel something. I mean, that's what process coaching is, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a sense of, you're like s- spiraling down, 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 drilling in, and you touch something. And sometimes when you touch something, something else opens up. So I think that has to happen first.
Yeah.
And then I think that you're able, like, that's almost that doorway to transformation that I'm speaking of. Then you can kind of step through and see what you see.
That's a beautiful. Again, I'm thinking of metaphor. I don't know what the metaphor is, but you just took me on a little journey. I just got, yeah, that place where we touch it, where we really touch
Yeah.
it. Again, without the judgment. I think one of the things you're bringing to my mind about this so often, our friends or family, they either judge us like, oh gosh, you did that, whatever thing, or they want us to get through it really fast. Like,
Yeah.
let's just move on, go find
Right.
somebody new, right? As opposed to let's take a look at without judgment. I think that's a really, really important piece. without judging
Yeah.
yourself, without feeling judged about whatever challenge you're facing.
Yeah. And I think it's an art as a coach to, not immediately bring in, well, what's the gift in this? When our client is just like
That's
clearly
right.
not, clearly maybe, like it could be so invalidating or dismissing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just what are some of the gifts on the other side? So I'm gonna come back to the birth metaphor.
Oh, yes.
So if you do, so once you're able to help people get to that, touch that pain,
Yeah.
and what are some specific, I don't know, new ways they experience life, tools that you've been able to share with people?
Yeah. I think, maybe the biggest thing is they get to experience life in a new way with a new connection to themselves and have a greater impact on others just in the fact that they had that brave moment where they did touch their pain. I think that people live more fulfilling lives after touching that pain by just it brings a confidence. It brings a sense of trusting yourself.
I wonder, you mentioned earlier about fear is something that can block us. So
Yeah.
I imagine, and this has been my experience, it's like the fear is gone. Like I can, like that, the thing that I'm most afraid of, I just went through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not only am I okay, but I've learned, oh yeah, I can do this too.
Yeah. And, maybe not as a coach, but in some ways that person is going to be there for their friends.
Mm.
And in that way, like the world really changes.
Yeah, well, that's pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah. I really felt that, like we're not just doing this, so we can live happily ever after, right? If we can, I mean, that's a great thing to want in a relationship. And, sometimes I think, we make problems our problems are almost too small. It's like, what if by being coached through heartbreak, I can have a bigger impact on the world around me?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
believe
that
that
inspires people. That
that is
inspires people to
inspiring.
take a different look at how they
Yeah.
view their heartbreak.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. I want to bring in here, I know you have a workshop that you're offering. I'm going to give you a moment to promote it in a minute, but I
Sure.
first want to just take a look at what did you choose? When you were thinking about what you know about yourself and other people, what are some things you've chosen that you feel like are the top ways that people can move beyond heartbreak or heartache? And I'm going to just, what is this? Digress a moment. Because what I feel like sometimes that heartbreak isn't even fresh. I wonder if you found
Mm,
this. Like sometimes it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I just broke up with somebody or, whatever. Sometimes I found it's like years and years ago something has happened in relationship and we kind of close down and feel bad about ourselves and then wonder why our relationships aren't so fulfilling. And so what you do as a relationship coach is you help people touch that pain. And then what are some things that you teach them in a workshop? Because there's
Mhm.
coaching and also, there's teaching that you do.
Yeah. So I think greater intimacy with themselves so that they have more to bring to a relationship and they have more say in how they want to experience the relationship instead of a relationship just kind of happening to them.
Hmm.
So we talk a lot about, core values for ourselves and for our relationships. We talk a lot about reframing certain experiences we've had in our lives in
Yeah.
order to see like where like oh I've always thought of that as like a failing so to speak, but oh actually have you noticed your courage in that situation? Have you noticed what you've learned in that situation? Just starting that reframing process and
Hmm.
then finishing with boundaries and self-care. And
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool. Just as you put those things together, because I know the values work is huge. I know
Yeah.
that it's got like kind of, like you said, that intimacy with self, and it can seem so intangible. That's what I wanted to make sure we brought today. But
Yeah.
actually, there are tangible ways. We all know what our values are. but we sell out on them, especially in relationships and intimate relationships the most because we want whatever. We like this person or we think they're cute or something. We're like, I'm just going to
Right.
bypass that thing that's really important to me. And what I hear you saying, and I so support you in your work, is when you know that and you're like, no, actually, this is what I want. This is what I like. This is what makes me happy. And the reframing, I think, is huge. It's a huge piece. And I want to connect this for the listeners. When you are as a coach telling your stories, so this is what Arjun's talking about a workshop, but I want to say when you're telling your stories, this is an opportunity for reframing for you too. Because I think that reframing is so the big piece. Here's what happened, and I'm thinking whatever. I'm a loser. I never didn't do it right. I whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. And it traps you in a whole negative construct so you don't actually have access to your power, to your strength, to your, all those things that are kind of bring you to a higher place. That's what I hear you saying in what you do in
Mhm.
this workshop as well. Like you help those people with those two things, values, reframing. I'm very curious about the boundaries. Yeah, because we all need, I don't know. I'm just going to say for me, I've worked on this probably my whole life. I'm a real people person. I love relationships like you do. And so setting boundaries, I find that at times it's like, oh, what do you find really helps people to set good boundaries?
Well, again, I think reframing what a boundary means or what a boundary is for. The way I see it, boundaries help us have more intimacy. If it's counterintuitive,
I know. I'm
right?
just going to say, wait a minute, Arjun, what are you talking about? Boundaries separate us from people.
No, they don't. They actually they're kind of like our skin, right?
Yeah.
But like energetically.
Yeah.
And you can't be intimate with someone, let's even say through sex, if you're not two separate people. You can't join together, right? And same with boundaries. Like you have to
Love
kind of
that.
know the edges of who you are and who
Yeah.
that person is in order to actually join together. Otherwise, it's a little messy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Enmeshed is one of those words, though.
Yeah, leaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. I'm thinking of a woman I worked with once who worked on her boundaries. And one thing she found out was some people didn't like the boundaries she set, but the people who liked them, they were her people. Like that's what I hear you saying. It actually helps us
Yeah.
create greater intimacy with I'm going to say the right people, the people
Yeah.
who are
Yeah. Yeah.
positive in our life, right?
Yeah.
And the others, it's like, oh, well, like that doesn't work for
Yeah.
you. That's okay. All
Yeah.
right.
And
I
in
want,
that way, it's a manifestation tool too.
oh,
We often think of manifesting things by oh, what do I want? But sometimes just kind of being really clear about what you don't want, then the universe will stop sending that to you because you're not buying it. Nope, something else.
no, no,
Let
not
that
that.
one go.
I
Something
love
else. Keep
that.
them coming. I'll give you my
Oh,
yes by
wow.
by giving you my no's.
That's so great. I love that.
Yeah.
It's time for us to wrap up here. This show goes so fast. It's been so fun talking to you. So informative. So how can people find out about you, find out about your workshop, connect with you?
So my website is arjanmakar.com. Very simple.
All right,
And
cool. Go
yeah.
find out. You can see if you're looking for relationship help as a coach. So I know you work with lots of people, but coaches listening to this, it can often be really intimidating. Who do I go to for relationship help as a coach? So
Mhm.
now you have somebody. Go check her out. Thanks for joining the show, Arjun. It's really been fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kat. I really enjoyed it.